Perf Podcasts. Today we have our coaches chat, and once again, I'm joined with Sam from Perf. How are you, man?
What's going on, Bobby? I'm good, man. I'm doing good. We spoke just before this. We're feeling a little bit tired this week, but we're ready to jump on here and talk about feelings, talk about coaching.
Yeah. So what exactly are we going to talk about today, Sam?
So with Junior Worlds starting this week, by the time this podcast gets released, we want to just dive a bit down memory lane and talk about our own experiences. Bobby, yourself going to Romania last year, me, myself going to Malta with Open Worlds. Dive back memory lane, talk about the prep and the competitions themselves. I guess just kind of highlighting, what we took away from those competitions, obviously being our first big international comp, and I guess what we found being different to competing locally, and then just kind of use that to give the listeners some insight into what they can take away if they're competing at Junior Worlds this week or they have ambitions of competing internationally in the future. And then I guess, how as coaches we can also apply that to athletes and, make sure our athletes are also ripping and ready to go for when they want to step on that international stage.
Yeah, this is a really good way to put it, because I guess in a way we are, whatever we learned in our competitions and like on the world stage, it's something to take away. And if we can give our takeaways to our roster, it's just going to be super holistic and super beneficial for all of them, actually, be it competing at any level, because I guess the level of nerves, it's still going to be there, which we'll talk about later as well.
Yeah, I like a saying, you either win or you learn. Myself didn't have the best experience, but, I learned a lot from it. I know, Bobby, you had quite a successful day, which we can get to in a second. But I think either way, when we're looking at like taking this big leap in competition, no matter how successful your day looks at the end, you take away a lot from it in terms of experience as an athlete, as a person, meeting new people, going to a different country, shifting some tin. And then, no matter what that day looks like for you, you learn a lot of things from it. So I guess we can start off, if you want to talk about, if we go back to last year, talking about Romania, your preparation for that, mentally and physically, how training was going, into Romania, and then also, the competition itself. How was kind of that process for you, for people that don't know?
Yeah, so I punched my ticket to Romania last year after Junior Nets, which was around April last year. And ever since then, I had this calf and forearm injury. I don't know what's up with my extremities, but like I always seem to have some problems with them. So I had a really big change, which was going to Strength Masters. So back then, I was training in Elevate, and I had to switch gyms. And to me, it was a very big change. And it was something that I physically needed, because I couldn't unrack without pain. I couldn't bench without pain. So we just used machines back then. And I guess it was, looking back, it's really beneficial, because Strength Masters is, my current gym is currently a bit closer to where Elevate was. But at the same time, it was a really big change. And for me, I was a bit afraid going in at first. I just wanted things to be the same, I guess, after Nationals. But we can't always have what we want. So during that period, it was also when I had an internship, and it was pretty tough, like juggling an internship, because I had to work from like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Every weekday. Then it's just like part of being an adult. So
and
those adults listening in,
you went from having basically just training to
school to
work to all of a sudden work as well.
Then it was just ending work at 4, just going to the gym straight, training till like 8, 9, then come back, sleep, repeat. So in that sense, when I was really busy, time kind of flew by really fast, and it wasn't the prep I wanted, because I could have done better in like many ways. So we'll talk about those injuries I sustained during nationals as well. So I did cover the calf and the forearm injury.
Yeah.
It took me about 10 weeks to get it sorted. So I was about 20 weeks out after nationals, and then it took me half the time to get back to where I was. So in those 10 weeks, I pretty much just had 2 blocks to sort of roll momentum in. Then came I guess, sleeves, I guess. How stiff sleeves are like
Stiff
religiously.
sleeve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I took a
Switching to
hit.
SPDs.
Yeah, I took a
Yeah.
huge hit.
It's
So
common, man. It's
yeah.
common.
What about you, man? Like, did you have that issue as well?
Yeah, so we got told we were getting the SPD sponsorship. I think it was like 8 weeks out or so. And
Yeah,
obviously that we had to wear SPDs. And by that point, we'd all been kind of in INSs, which were like the raging sleeve at the time.
yeah,
And it was, I probably had been in them for like 6 to 8 months, obviously getting very used to them. And then I had about like 6 to 8 weeks to switch back. And yeah, it was adjustment. Technique wise too, even like I felt like my technique changed from the stiff sleeve, and then going back to the SPDs, actually had to feel like I had to keep pushing and using my legs.
yeah,
But like I scored a 310 in both SPDs and stiffs, and honestly, when it's 310, it's like it's 310. It feels the same. But it was just like the working up to that feels different.
yeah. So for me, I could squat 250 for 2 without any trouble in the INSS, but then back in the SBD, that was like a third attempt realistically. So
Yeah.
I guess for squats, that's how I sort of ended the prep there. I took what was there. It was also at the time heavier than the national record squat for my weight class and age class. So I guess that was something I wanted going into Worlds as well.
Yeah.
Bench was pretty much the worst lift going into Romania prep. I remember failing 200 for the first time 3 weeks out, I believe. Was it?
Was that the first time you attempted it too? I remember when you hit it. That was after though, right?
Yeah, that was earlier this year. But wait, I can't seem
Yes,
to
that's right.
remember when. No, I didn't attempt 200 that time. Sorry. So I was just. I remember why I accumulated too much fatigue. I was just getting stronger, but I was adding load to like all my days. And that was the takeaway for me for Worlds, that I didn't need to add a lot of weight. I didn't need to add weight for all my training days, even if I was getting stronger. Because just because I was getting stronger doesn't mean I can recover from the stimulus that I put myself through.
Is part of that, like, when you're in that moment, if you can go back, do you feel like you felt pressure, obviously from having that 10-week kind of more rehabby period and then having 10 weeks to prep? There's obviously that big consideration, but did you also feel like, you got overzealous and felt pressure on yourself to push every single day because of the idea that you were going to Worlds and you just wanted to train hard and push everything? Was that also part of it?
I feel like if I wasn't even going to Worlds, I would still do that because it took
You're a
me
naughty
10
boy.
whole weeks to like just be healthy, right? And
Yeah.
like being able to train hard is a privilege, man. Like I cannot stress this hard enough. Like I haven't been training hard like for like almost 10 months already, and I can tell when I get back, I'm gonna enjoy training hard. So
Since Worlds, right?
since I guess 2 months later, so it was prep for Asians later last year.
Yeah.
So for me, bench, I just ended up adding too much load, and I think I failed 185 2 weeks out, and then I was like, I'm just really fatigued. I'm not like everything felt heavy in my hands. Like it wasn't like just like I would come into the gym, I would know that this weight is just gonna feel very heavy. It could be like 120, it could be 170. It would just feel as heavy as And I think I communicated this very well with Kelly. And on the morning of, I guess, before I flew off, I had this taper session, and It was really early. I didn't expect her to be up, but like we just talked it out, and then whatever she wanted to have me lift, I told her it wasn't possible. I think it was about 180 at the time. So I just did like 165. I kept it there.
Yeah.
Then I just allowed myself to just recover from that. And the super compensation worked, the taper worked, and I made 190 fly. Reckon I had more, but yeah, I missed my second attempt, so that's on me.
Gold medal, baby.
Yeah.
Gold medal?
Yeah. Gold medal.
Yeah. Come on, man. Oh, we haven't hit the comp yet, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, man. Obviously, you had that 10. What were you lifting in that 10-week period where you had the forearm injury? What was the most you benched in that 10 weeks before you hit the 10 weeks out?
I think it was about one. I remember that was when I squatted 250 as well. So I was already in the 180 range.
Yeah.
But I was in the 190 range like for really long, like at the start of last year.
Yeah.
So I had to pull back, and then I built up to 180. And then from there, I got to where I was.
What about, what about deadlifts and then into the competition then? You've already a bit of a hint at what you hit for bench, but how was deadlifts, and then what was the actual competition performance like?
Yeah. So deadlifts were also pretty bad. I kept missing grip on my deadlifts, especially my singles. And I felt like it was the bars in the gym that was just really smooth, because my fingers were on the smooth because I pull sumo.
Yeah.
So my grip is naturally going to be a bit narrow. And I guess I didn't really have that issue going to comp, because I managed to lock out what I missed on grip. Because I missed grip at lockout during prep. I was just able to repeat the same numbers on the comp, and I managed to lock it out. So I didn't really have complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just going to prep, that was like the hardest I've ever worked for in a prep. It was really rewarding, because I was just very privileged to be able to just work hard, like injury-free, even if it was just 10 weeks.
Yeah, especially looking back in terms of, the training you've had now, where you have been a little bit limited with the hamstring and stuff that you're dealing with. I guess when you reflect back on that period where you could basically go hard coconuts for 10 weeks, like you said, like a little bit irresponsible, even like adding load on every single day and just training hard. And like you said, training with the idea that, it's a privilege and you can just enjoy it and really lap up that experience in that 10 weeks. It's certainly a big contrast to what you're feeling now. And, it's kind of like why it's good that we're doing this, because it's good to reflect back on. And, a lot of people go through these periods, right? They can have these slumps of training, whether it's with an injury or, life. They have families and kids and all these other things that can pop up. And, training for a while can feel like it's not going anywhere, or even just going more and more backwards. But I guess, if you're having these periods where you think back and how much you enjoyed these just raw dog and coconut periods of training where you could just really enjoy it, it's good to look back on, and you can definitely get back there. It's just got to ride that roller coaster.
Something to look forward to as well, just not back on. I definitely know that it's something that I'll end up in the future. It's not going to be... Yeah. So moving forward to our comp, I guess.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I guess Romania, how early did you go? And did you stay in the athlete hotel?
I stayed in the... No, our federation didn't book the hotel. Didn't book the comp venue hotel. We just got the affiliated hotels. So it was kind of a pain in the ass, because like we needed to take boat everywhere we needed to go. I just had to make sure like I packed everything, and we were fine.
Take boat.
A boat, a BOLT, the Uber. In Europe.
I thought you were taking
a boat, man.
Boat. I was like, hold on, Romania's not by like the water. I was like, how far away are you staying, man?
Staying
across the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taking
So
Bolt scooters, yeah, right.
yeah.
My bad.
Did you take the scooters as well in Malta?
In Germany, when we landed in Germany before Malta, we were scooting around everywhere.
Hella fun, man.
Germany's really cool. Yeah, there's bike paths and
Yeah.
everything where you can just literally just travel by scooter. So that was good fun.
Yeah. So back to the comp venue, it wasn't ideal as well, but it was just something we had to work with because it was out of our control. But I have to say, I was feeling very pressured going into the comp because I didn't really cover this earlier, but during my early stages of the prep, I think I told everyone in my gym I wanted to win.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
Good.
think it was just at the back of my head, it was a way for me to keep myself accountable. Because like if I'm just all talk, then like I think I wouldn't want to let it slide. Because I feel like if I didn't say it, then like I would just be okay, like half-assing this prep. So just told my friends, hey, I'm gonna win. Then at least my friends have something to like keep. At least my friends know what I want. They keep me accountable. Yeah, it was something I was grateful for. Because the friends I prepped with, there were a couple of them that went to Worlds with me, and they did really well as well. It was just really fun for all of us.
Yeah, that's sick. I guess, you put the pressure on yourself, more from an accountability sense. There's obviously people get motivated many ways, and yapping and talking big is one of them.
Yeah. And I think I infected some of them as well. Like after that, they just also got a bit more confident in themselves, and they wanted to just be better. And I'm very happy for them. So it wasn't just that in that aspect where I felt that pressure. So for Team Singapore, 59, Ryan Yong.
Yeah.
He did very
My
well.
boy.
He got 4 medals, and like it's insane. He podiumed overall. Then the next day, 66, also podium overall. He got third. He lost to Japan and Kyle Nowak from USA.
Yep.
So that's already the 59s and 66ers, both having podium positions. And I'm over here nominated 8th, wondering what the fuck I was thinking. So I think I was one day out. I was like, man, those guys are like popping off, and like I'm next.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's also because of how they performed. I was really happy for them. Like, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I wish that because at that time I didn't know how well I was gonna do, but at the same time, I wish that success for myself as well. I remember talking to a few friends about it. I remember talking to Kelly about it. Kelly said that it was great, that I was happy for them, but I shouldn't worry about them as well. I should just focus on myself.
Yeah, especially when it's that close to competition, right? Like it's, it's they're competing days, 1 to 2 days before you, from an energy conversation standpoint and like mentality standpoint, you want to kind of reserve a bit of that hype for your own performance.
Yeah, for sure. But them performing so well didn't help. Not that I wish they didn't perform well, but just there was also like our first world champion like the day before my comp. So like 57 sub junior at the time, Chloe Tang. So she also won worlds. Then we have 2 podium positions as well. So at the back of my head, it was just like felt like I needed to catch up with them. And after that, I just went out for a scoot. Like I went scootering by myself. I had one friend with me. Then we just went down the canal. It was really cool. It was really fun. It took my mind off things. Then I slept really well that night, so I was thankful for that. Then same thing. I sneaked out in the morning because I competed afternoon in Romania. I had time to scoot, so I scooted as well. Lost some weight. Told Shania that I was underweight. We could have breakfast, and then we just ended up going to comp. So I think being in the comp itself, I wasn't sure how I was gonna do, but I just wanted to total more than my friend at the time because I think 2 weeks before my competition, there was Singapore Open Nationals, and my friend totaled 700. Yeah, and at the time we were just like bantering with each other, and we were like trying to beat Clinton, who was like Singapore's best at the time, and he was at 700. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna try and best that. So that ended up with me just totaling that number. I think I was just more fixated about beating my friend, and I didn't even know how I was gonna place. And so like I said, I managed to lock up my last deadlift, and it was 265 at the time. After the deadlift, uh, I was just ready to like get ready for the medal ceremony. Like we gotta change, right?
Yeah.
Then I didn't even ask like what my placing was. I just told my handler I'm gonna go to the toilet, I'm gonna be back. Then I come back. He tells me I'm still in second because everyone apparently missed their third deadlifts. And to me it was something that I was definitely not expecting because I was just looking for bench go at the time and I just wanted to get out.
Yeah.
At the time, second just came to me. It felt like I didn't earn it because I wasn't the heaviest puller that day. But I think talking to Kelly and me having just that huge subtotal to push them off, it's also a valid way to win. Like just because I'm not the heaviest puller doesn't mean I'm not worthy of winning, or at the time getting second. So I guess at the time I was really happy, but I was also pretty regretful that I didn't really do well enough to win because it was pretty close.
Did you feel like, you know, using your mate's 700 kilo total, did you feel like that kind of helped because it distracted you from the environment of, you know, the competition of worlds? So you're like, you know, all of a sudden you're not focusing on winning like you were talking big in the prep, you know, saying everyone you're going to win. All of a sudden you just want a total 700, which probably, you know, links to making somewhat good attempt selections and making lifts. And like you said, just doing enough to let everyone else fuck up, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, at the time I didn't care about my competition at all. So I would say it helped, but even if my mate wasn't there, I would just be focused on lifting by myself. So
yeah,
I think naturally the competition doesn't really faze me. If it comes down to attempt selections, I usually let my handler know what I'm good for, and my handler does the numbers, and usually I leave them to it. I won't really stress out about them.
Yeah.
So
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah. So shall we talk a bit about yours this time?
Yeah, man. I'll have to go remember a bit of it. I can kind of give a brief rundown of the general plan and prep and kind of the issues I faced. And then obviously, you know, traveling and what kind of happened. People that have listened to previous episodes, I think we did like a recap ages ago, straight after. I kind of talked a bit already about it. But for newer listeners, so after 22 Nationals, which was in October, we basically had the prep plan pretty much laid out all the way till June the next year for Malta. So it was like, you know, 8 months kind of written down on paper, how we're going to kind of periodize and peak. The first step was essentially hitting like a gym test. So I did like a gym test in February where I did like a weight cut. I maxed out to basically test, you know, 3 blocks of training. And it was really, really successful. I think Nationals, I went 830. The gym test in February, I went 850 with 310, 185, and 355 at like 119.7 body weight. 2-hour weigh-in, you know, basically like a mock meet. And then Kelly and my plan at the time was to basically just repeat that process in terms of like the 3 blocks, March, April, May. Yeah, I think we had the exact same amount of training blocks, like 3 5-week blocks or something. Can't remember the details, where we basically just repeated that whole process in an attempt to
replicate
replicate it and do even better in Malta, with travel and everything. So at the time, I was on quite a surge. Training had been going well for like a good year and a half. I was making good progress. I hit 812, hit 800, hit 812, hit 830, hit 850. Everything was kind of going up. In my mind, I wasn't very vocal about my goals in terms of what I wanted to achieve, but, in my mind, I really was thinking I was going to go up there and have quite a good performance, 860 odd, nipping into the top 10, depending on what happened. For the most part, the preparation went quite well. The first 2 blocks, same thing, generally good momentum, rep PRs. We've already spoken about the little sleeve drama, but, adapted quite well to all those things that happened. The last block was where it kind of started to shake up just a little bit. I started having some kind of little back pain and niggles, just poking through. Nothing terrible. For context, I hurt my back pretty bad in October, the week before Nationals, the 6 months prior, in my last heavy squat. So it was almost like a bit of a warning shots from that previous injury starting to creep back in. Long story short, I pulled my last heavy deadlift the morning of we flew out at 340. It flew, felt really good. Juices were flowing. Me, Kelly, Steve, everyone that was going were feeling really, really good. And then we flew to Germany. So our plan was to basically be in Europe 10 days before the competition. So we had about 4 days in Germany, and then we had a week in Malta before I competed. Yeah. Landed in Germany. I'll give some more details and context to this story. I left Australia at about 125 kilos body weight. I landed in Germany, put the scales down in a little hotel room, and I was 129 kilos body weight, which I had never seen before. I'd never been 129 kilos in my life. So I thought, shit, that's great. Obviously, big travel. I hadn't shat for 3 days. I hadn't done a poo. I couldn't fit in the plane toilets to do a poo. I tried. I just couldn't. I couldn't fit to push one out. And then I was eating the plain food, the prepackaged plain food meals you get, thinking, I would land a little bit heavier and have, 10 days to get back to baseline. But yeah, it was 4 kilos of body weight. And then we had about 4 days in Germany. I did my last heavy squat about a week out. So I think it was the Saturday, which was about 3 days after landing in Germany, or 4 days after landing in Germany. So enough days to kind of get rid of some jet lag, get in somewhat, a good sleep routine, start eating some somewhat normal food. One issue we had was we got to Germany and we booked these hotels thinking they'd have kitchens and stuff to prep food. But we get there and there was, from memory, not even a microwave. It was literally just a blank hotel room and kettle. Yeah. So I think for 4 days, again, we were trying to eat out and eat out smart, good food options, protein, vegetables, good quality carbohydrates, all the rest of it. We had a supermarket where I was buying tuna and things I could eat in a hotel room that wouldn't need a fridge. But obviously, it was 4 days of eating out. Did my last squat in Germany, which was 300 kilos. At that point, I had a little bit more kind of back pain, oblique kind of issues starting to creep up a little bit more, but adjusted and managed to get through all my back downs. So I finished on a 300 last squat, with plans to then, have more on the platform. A 340 deadlift, which felt pretty good. And then from memory, bench was 190. I hit 190 in Brisbane before we flew to Germany. So yeah, pretty good training week and prep overall. And then we got to Malta about a week out, and I essentially had like a whole week from like Sunday to Saturday to eat good food, training hall, watch some powerlifting, kind of really settle into the week. Yeah. That was a really cool experience overall. Like in general, I really felt like a sports person or an athlete for a week. Like we had the Airbnb. I did like a big grocery shop for the week. I'd go to the training hall, mingle with like, athletes from other countries, hit like your taper sessions, go down and watch like the prime time. Like it was a really cool experience having those like 5 days to just really soak up the experience, I guess you could say. It was somewhat hard because, every day people were finishing competing and I was on like the second last day and everyone started like drinking, getting on it, partying and all the rest of it. So like having fun. That was honestly, somewhat challenging because, I had to stay contained within myself because I got there so early, to try and I would never like fall into like drinking early or whatever, but like, seeing people really wind down and relax and have a holiday and me trying to stay focused and keep eyes on the prize for 4 or 5 more days
makes it hard, right?
A little bit challenging. Yeah. It wasn't like, there's worse things to kind of go through, but it was a little bit challenging. And then my weight just wasn't shifting as much as planned. We did like my normal gut cut and weight cut protocol. But long story short, the night before comp, I think I was still like 122.8 or something from memory. So I hadn't spat before, but I was like, I need to start getting some of this weight off because I know like I'm not going to lose over 2 kilos overnight. So I think I ended up spitting to about 122, thinking I'd lose about a kilo and a half overnight, which I would normally use in like that point of a weight cut. And then I woke up the morning of comp and I was like, I don't think I lost anything, to be honest with you. From memory, I think I was still like high 21s. I was like 121.6 or 0.8.
Okay.
And I think I woke up at like 6 a.m. or 5:30 and weigh-ins were like 10 a.m. So I gave myself enough time. Yeah, I gave myself enough time to, adapt as needed. Woke up, I was still heavy. So straight away, I just went down to the hotel and just started spitting and getting in the sauna to try and sweat it off. Never saunaed before. Never saunaed on a 2-hour weigh-in. Never spat before. I'm in this sauna with no one else, spitting and saunaing, starting to panic a little bit. Also because I just didn't know what I was weighing. I had my scales there, but I didn't know if they were accurate, all the rest of it. Long story short, I ended up getting down to 120.0 about 20 minutes before weigh-in started.
That's good.
Weighed in, rehydrated. Thought I felt pretty good. Warming up to moving really, really fast as normal. And then, as soon as I hit like my squat opener was a little bit slower, but I just thought a little bit of nerves, shake it off. Second attempt was, slower again. So I think we went I think it was like 290 or 295. And then we went just +5 to 300 for third. And it was like just RP 10, like really, really hard. Felt my back kind of pop on the way out of the hole, stuck through it. And then from there, it was just this snowball of like the day just kind of slipping away from me, if I'm honest. It's just a bit of a blur. I kind of, at that point, had accepted that I was in a bit of trouble from what I had planned to do for that day. I kind of realized that, it's not going to be that scenario. So my coaches at the time, we adjusted the numbers. I think we dropped my bench opener a little bit, but my 182 second was really, really slow. And I was pale. I was white. I was just gassed, if I'm honest. Missed my third. And then deadlift warm-ups like I think I hit like 220 and 270 with a 300 opener. Back was screaming. 270 from memory last warm-up was quite hard. It was quite hard. At that point, I'm not like an aggressive lifter. I don't really get angry. I mean, I grunt a little bit and stuff, but I'm not really like a violent, aggressive lifter. But at that point, it was really interesting because like I really like got angry. From memory, I think I like even like kind of punched my own head like after my 270 just to like try and bring something out of me because I just felt it really just slipping away. And I was just kind of like this, I don't even know the emotion to kind of describe it.
Primal?
Yeah, somewhat primal. I guess it was like, I don't even know. It was really forced. Like I was really trying to get everything out of me because I did want it so bad. I wanted to go out there and just kind of leave it all, but I just had nothing. So I ended up pulling 300 quite slow for my opener. Again, that was dropped. I think I was planned to open on 310 or 315 and then came out for 310 second. And it just was, at that point, my back was too sore and I had nothing left. I think the first thing that got to me the most after I kind of walked off from that 310, you know, I definitely live for myself, like we all do. You know, we all train and live somewhat for ourselves and our own progression and love for the sport. But when I first walked off that platform, the first thing I kind of felt was, I guess, embarrassment. And I also felt like I let a lot of people down because, you know, I knew people here at Perf Motion staying up late, watching me on the TV, on the live stream. Like there was a bit of a watch party. I knew like I had people tagging me in stories throughout the comp. Like I knew people were watching. And I guess like the biggest thing I felt was like just pure embarrassment, really, and disappointment in myself. I was kind of, just like couldn't quite grasp how it went so south so quick based off how the last 2 years of training had gone, you know, like that was always the goal. Malta was always the goal, or Worlds was always the goal. The trajectory that I was on, I thought I was going to do quite well, but it just, went south so quickly. And, you know, when I look back at it now, I've spoken before about like, you know, not doing enough in the lead up in terms of nutrition and not sitting light enough and not being close enough with that stuff. But even little things now that I learned from it in terms of, you know, hydrating on a plane, like those things are just dehydration boxes. And even if you don't want to keep getting up to the toilet, anyone that's traveling for Worlds, if you're traveling, you know, on a flight, even if it's 2 hours, just drink water. And like, because I know you had a similar experience of like needing to drink a lot to almost start your water load to maintain weight.
And I think it worked out. Because
I
was just constantly drinking. Like I also planned like I had to finish like this bottle, like a 1.5 liter bottle, in like every 3 hours, so I could just get the amount done during the day. So by the time I landed, I was sweet. I think that was something that I learned from Open Worlds, like you guys going in, and I guess Kelly, Shania at the time, they just warned me that it's going to be rough. So I just came in more prepared.
Yeah. So I definitely think that's like, a big takeaway for me and obviously a big lesson, but there's those little details of like traveling and, you know, hotels and what you get access to in a hotel, not really knowing what you're going to have in a country with food options. So, you know, like if you're cutting weight and all the rest of it, having a backup plan for your backup plan. And, you know, being able to adapt and be flexible. Like I had like my weight cuts like down to a T of the exact foods I like to eat, you know, Mars bar ice creams and all the stuff I can get, like all the stuff I can get back home. But you fly 20 hours across the world and there's not going to be a Mars bar ice cream in Lithuania. I don't know. There might have been, but being able to adapt and give yourself time to get all those things in place in that competition week, I think is really important. Like giving yourself the time to really sit down and get the plan in place, even if that plan has A, B, and C options. And I think that comes down to, my experience as well, like having a backup plan for your competition attempt selection too.
100%.
You can have the perfect prep or perfect plan for the 6 months of training like I had. You can have all your attempt selections down to a T. But in my case, you can wake up 3 kilos heavy or 2 kilos heavy and then, not do the right things with your weight cut. And then all of a sudden you've got to adapt right on the fly and you've got to be ready for it.
And I think for me, it also works vice versa because prep wasn't the best for me, but I also seized the opportunity on the day as well. So I was also able to adapt based on my competitors for my handlers, but in the moment I was just trying to lift the most for myself.
Yes, exactly right. I guess it definitely goes both ways, scaling up or scaling down. Obviously, in a competitive setting, when you're feeling good and you've got, wins in sight, you're going to deviate from the plan and put whatever's on the bar that you need to place or get a medal on a specific lift, all the rest of it. And that might be different to the numbers that you had planned for the day as well. Even like, I'm going to talk about this a lot. Backup plan for backup plan. Another thing I like post weigh-in is like Subway. So yeah, I not anymore. Now I have fried rice.
Okay.
As my post weigh-in meal, but for a while there it was Subway, just because it's easy to eat and.
What do you order?
Salty. So normally I get a foot-long chicken strips with cheese,
Yum.
capsicum, spinach, tomato, a little bit of onion, salt and pepper, Chipotle Southwest. But for comps, I just get like fucking heaps of salt, ham, bread, a little bit of sauce, like really easy to eat.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tom Chaplin was like, he competed the day before. He was there watching, and someone competed the day before. But basically, they went out on a night out the night before I competed, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll get you Subway. I'll have it ready for you for when you weigh in." I was like, "Yes, sweet, of course you will." Wake up, hadn't heard anything. He's obviously either in bed or still out on the terps, and then had to go to the freaking grocery store and like get together my freaking weigh-in meal because, I knew Tom wasn't going to be there in 3 hours time. When I weighed in. Tom, you're a lovely bloke, but at that point you were leaving me hanging with the Subway.
Yeah. Did he at least get you Subway when you all came back?
I can't even remember. Probably not. I was probably haunted by it, man. I didn't even want Subway anymore at that point. I was too scarred from my terrible weight cut. I guess like if we segue off that, so Bobby, you're going to Malta. Funnily enough,
by the time the podcast is out, I'm already gonna be there.
Yeah, so you're coaching in Malta for Junior World. So anyone listening, keep your eyes peeled for Big Bobby. But I guess what are the, from our experiences and from our lessons, that we've kind of gone through, what are kind of some of the conversations you've had to your athletes to help prepare them for the week? And then I guess also on that note, what are some things that you're doing in 4 or 5 days time when you land to try and make sure your athletes are as successful as possible?
All right. So let's tackle the second question first because it's really easy. Just
get
a packing list, man. It's not that hard. Just get a packing list. Note everything down.
A dummy list.
Yeah, pretty much. Know what you need to pack in your check-in luggage, your carry-on luggage, your bag, what you're gonna bring to comp, what you're gonna eat for comp, what you're gonna eat when you land, stuff like that.
Yes.
How much you're gonna drink, what time you're gonna even sleep on the plane. So when you get to the hotel, you can sleep immediately if like it's night. If you reach in the morning, you better make sure you're not tired for the rest of the day. Just stuff like that. Calibrating your scales as well. Just go to the IPF hotel, just compare your scales and just get the difference down. Yeah.
Good little hack.
Yeah. Anything I'm missing off the top of my head?
No, I think it doesn't work for everyone, but yeah, writing it out is huge, and double checking and triple checking.
Like if you don't plan, you're not gonna know what you need to do, and then it's just nerve city.
Yeah. What about like, I guess, do you have any of your own athletes competing?
Yeah, I have
in Malta.
Yeah.
What are some of the kind of conversations you've had around like mentality and performance? I guess it's going to be different case to case for what each person's going through, but have you had any discussions in terms of making sure that mentally they're as prepared as possible?
Yeah, because I know what type of lifter that person is. So it's that lifter is quite neurotic, tends to overthink quite a bit as well. So it's gonna come down to that first squat. In my opinion, I get the first squat out of the way, then it's gonna be fine. But I guess the days leading up to it's also gonna matter. How a coach talks to the athletes about each of their issues is also going to be very important, because you can't let these thoughts simmer, especially for an overthinker. I think a very good example can be not like pointing fingers at anyone, but I think an example that can be used if someone had a really good prep like yourself I would tell them not to be complacent, because anything can happen on the day.
Yeah.
And same for me. I personally didn't have the best prep, so if that's the case, I would usually tell them, as long as even on the taper, even during the taper, there are still going to be sessions that leading up to your meet, you can still capitalize on them. Just because your peak is over doesn't mean you should just shut your mind off, or like your intent still needs to be there, and it needs to be increasing, and towards the comp day it should be 100. So
100%.
Yeah, they should be more locked in, if anything, during the taper. So if they haven't had the best prep, then that's when I would also have a talk with them, make sure that we are on the same page, make sure they don't throw away their prep just because it's not as good as they want it, because not every prep is going to go the way anyone wants. And even if it does, like I said, complacency can kill.
Yeah. I mean, even just from our two cases, right? Like, I had a really good prep, didn't have a good performance. You didn't have the best prep, had a great performance.
Yeah.
So even right there, like using us as an example, you don't know until your day. I think you raise a good point about like that taper week, especially if you're at the venue or you're at the location already. No matter what has happened for that 8, 10, 12 weeks prior, like you can still milk. Like, obviously you're not going to get stronger in that week, but you can really set yourself up mentally and even physically by giving those like 1, 2, 3 sessions when you're in the training hall, as much as you can, intent, bar speed, all the rest of it, to help
stop you from either. Like even rehab during your taper, that should go in.
Yeah. So I think you raised a good point there. And even from my experience, you would have felt the same thing. Like, it's fucking sick that week too. Like, when you've got everyone around you from all these other different countries, like no matter what you're like in that environment, whether it's kind of makes you a bit nervous or kind of within yourself, I guess, kind of just soak it up, lap it up, like use that environment around you to kind of bring that energy for the platform. And then also like just making sure that, when you're outside of that environment, you're doing the right things to stay within your own zone and like your own arousal levels, and making sure you can still sleep at night because you're not up till 11 p.m. watching prime time, all
prime
those kind
time,
of things. I think I gave myself a cutoff. I think I watched the, I don't even know now from memory. I think the last session I watched in person was maybe the 83s. And then every other session I just stayed in the Airbnb and watched on the stream.
I think for me, I barely even went there. I went there to train because there was a really good gym at the competition venue, but that's about it. I didn't want to have anything to do with the comp until comp day itself.
Yeah. I think, again, everyone works differently. I definitely think you can overdo the watching element. It can be tiring. And obviously it's like the energy is crazy. So like you can really just be tired from that. So definitely having like a cap on how much you're around that environment. But when you are there, using it to, fuel those sessions and fuel just that kind of feel good for the week.
I think at the end of the day, coaching lifters for Worlds, it's going to let them discover themselves a bit more. Because I'm pretty sure you weren't, I guess you also had moments of panic that you didn't realize you thought you'd have. You also didn't realize you'd get as violent as you thought you'd have if your back wasn't against the wall. I think same for me as well. I learned a bit more about myself coming into competition, be it pressure from myself or from my teammates who did really well at the time. It also made me understand myself better as an athlete. And I think it's really great to see if the athlete, I guess, sort of reflects on that, which we should talk about as well, because I think reflecting on your performance and yourself is very important on the meet in general.
Yeah, definitely. I myself, I copped it on the chin. I just, I realized I didn't do enough myself outside of the gym in terms of making sure that, like that weight cut, like, yes, we had the plan in place in terms of getting there earlier and all the rest of it. But I was definitely, had some elements of complacency dripping in to my training overall, not so much like with my intent and effort in sessions, but just like outside. So, that was my main reflection. And I think just like being comfortable with that, like I was definitely angry at myself and disappointed in myself, like I've kind of touched on. And, that ended up linking to feelings of like embarrassment and feeling like I've let people down. But at the same time, I've just learned from it. Like, I just don't want to make that mistake again. I'm with Tom for nutrition now, more accountable in those areas, making sure that, my weight's in that healthy range to cut weight.
And when you do fly out, make sure there's always a plan with Tom.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for me, it was just like facing myself in that sense and kind of just realizing that I just didn't do enough, honestly. I could have done more. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. If I went back, I would do it completely different. But at the same time, this last year, I've also become way better for it, and I'm now in a heaps better spot again. So, yeah, like I said at the start of this episode, either win or you learn. Fucking sucked, but I've learned a lot, and I can just now take that forward.
I think that's a good way to end it here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
so
didn't mean to be that dark with the ending there, but yeah, you either win or you learn.
Yeah, it's a good way to end things. So, just to recap, just for those athletes competing, just make sure you have a plan. Just don't get complacent and don't give up to the very end. And just have fun, of course. Just it's once a year. Just go have fun, man.
Yeah.
And most importantly, reflect on yourself and your performance. And all the best to everyone competing.
Yeah. Go out there and kill it.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.